All right, Shalom to the elect of Israel. I want to start by giving all the praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Dash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the elect of Israel. And this lesson, Slakia. I'm with the brother
Kahan.
the brother Kahan. Page GMS Watch and Pray. Subscribe and be edified. So Lord allowed us to do another lesson together, and this one is going to go with this is going to be in addition to some of the other previous lessons that's been done by us, right? With it's going to be in this playlist where going into the three woes, all right. And the last lesson we did was the third woe. The deliverance will come in the midst of World War III. Okay, so this video is going to be here. You can go to this playlist and watch and be edified. Right now, thing is, with this lesson though, this one is going to go into the fact that before um, before the missiles, before the deliverance comes, all right, Jacob's trouble is going to be ongoing, and that's the period of time that we're at currently. We're in the beginning of Jacob's trouble now. Okay, NOW now. We're in the beginning of Jacob's trouble, right? Which was prophecy. I can ask you. Ask some.
Nah.
Come on. All right. So real quick before I start, I had asked Google Gemini, right? I said, "What is Jacob's trouble?" It says Jacob's trouble is a term derived from the Hebrew Bible, specifically Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7. It refers to a period of unprecedented distress and suffering for the descendants of Jacob, aka the nation of Israel, right? And that just goes to show you that the Israelites are still here to this very day. But scholars know about this verse and they understand that it's going to be for the last days, the last of last days. It says in theological circles, particularly with says Christian eschatology, it is often equated with the Great Tribulation, right? This is what Christians call um, the Great Tribulation, but it's not going to be 7 years long. All right. It says the biblical context, the phrase comes from a passage where the prophet Jeremiah describes a time of intense national crisis. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Right? Most scholars and theologians break the concept down into three main phases. The distress, it is described as a time of unique birth pains and agony. Many interpret this as a future 7 year period based on Daniel's prophecy, the 70th week, but that's off. Okay, so when Israel faces intense persecution, but that time period that they're talking about in Daniel 9, that's not talking about Jacob's trouble. That already came to pass. All right, this is Jacob's trouble is not going to be 7 years long. All right, that's that's talking about something way different, right? Now it says the purpose. From a theological perspective, the trouble isn't just punishment. It is seen as a refining process intended to lead the Jewish people to a spiritual turning point of salvation. But that's wrong because it is a time of punishment. All right. It's called Jacob's trouble for a reason. This is a troublesome time for you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, you Israelites, you descendants of Jacob, whose name was later changed to Israel. It says the deliverance. The verse concludes with a promise because it says concludes because at the end, and that goes to, that's something else too. When you look at that verse, Jeremiah 30 and 7, and even Daniel 12 and 1, it goes to show you that like it always mentions at the end of the verse that they're going to be saved out of it. And at the end of Jacob's trouble, he's going to be saved out of it. That's spiritual. But it says the verse concludes with a promise, but he shall be saved out of it. This is interpreted as the physical and spiritual rescue of Israel, often linked to the second coming of the Messiah. Okay, so that's basically that for for, at least for right now on for Google Gemini. Now going on, right? So this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, because the thing is with these lessons we do, is basically trying to put prophecy into perspective. You know, because we know once again before Yahweh Shai comes back in the midst of World War III, right? Jacob's trouble is going to be starting. Well, it's like it's not starting. It's going to already be going on. Okay, so it's Matthew chapter 24, starting in verse 21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. Right. So this time that's coming, all right. It's going to be the worst time that the earth has ever experienced. Right. It says, and except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Yeah, because and this goes to show you it's not going to be 7 years, but um the fact, but the Lord is shortening the days. That's why the earth is spinning faster. Okay, that's why you know you look at the time. We at the end of January already, and so much has already happened. You know, the time just seems everybody says that time goes by faster now. That's not for no reason. All right, because if it didn't, as I said, no flesh will be saved. People will start coming to Esau. Righteous will start be getting killed off. All right, righteous, we get killed off. All of that. But it says, "For the elect's sake, those days shall be short." You know, so this time of Jacob's trouble is going to be a bad time. All right, but it's going to go by quick. Lord willing, it could be a month or two, maybe three, a couple of weeks. Who knows? All right, but it's going to be quick. Okay, this time, um, there's going to the world is going to experience a mass death, destruction, famine, concentration camps, bloodshed. All right, apparitions, all these different things. Okay, so let me just get this real quick. Matthew 24:29. It says immediately after the tribulation, and you keep hearing this word tribulation. All right, it's ellipses. Real quick, it says pressing together, pressure, metaphoric, oppression, affliction, tribulation, distress, straits, trouble, Jacob's trouble. Right. So he says, this is Yahweh Shai speaking about this time period. Right. Um, all right. So it says, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, right? And the moon shall not give her light because of the smoke from the nuclear missiles and everything, right? And the stars shall fall from heaven, the nuclear missiles drop into the earth. That's what it's talking about. And the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. The elites, they're going to be afraid. So, but he said after the tribulation of those days, right? So the tribulation is Jacob's trouble. So at the end of Jacob's trouble, you're going to have the nuclear missiles going on, and then Yahweh Shai talks about his return here. Okay, that tells you before the nuclear missiles happen, what? Jacob's trouble. Okay, so from there, right? I'm gonna go here. Is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30, starting at verse 5. No, verse 4. And these are the words that Yahweh spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah. But thus saith Yahweh. So look, this concerns Israel and Judah, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans. But thus saith Yahweh, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask ye now, and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. Okay. And this word paleness, if you look it up, is Yarako 1. Okay. You go down to the Strongs, it says, like the lexicon, a person's paleness of face, that lurid greenish color in the countenance of men when smitten with great terror. Right? So this is going to be a very terrible time. Okay? And it's basically asking, I'm going to read it in the NLT real quick. Right? NLT. Now let me ask you a question. Do men give birth to babies? And why do they stand there, ashen faced, hands pressed against their sides like a woman in labor? And when a woman's going through labor, it's very painful. So why? Verse 7, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. Remember, it's going to be the worst time on earth it's ever been. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it, via Yahweh Shai. This is the time we're coming into. And when you look in the Hebrew real quick, it says wa'ith, which means in time. Tazarah means trouble. Haya'ah, well, I forgot. Haya'ah. Basically, it says in wa'ith, in time. Tazara'ah, Tazarah, which means trouble. It says Haya'ah, and then this says La, which means to Yaikwab. So time of trouble to Jacob. That's what's coming. We're in it, Precept Daniel 12:1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble. So Michael the archangel is going to stand up to protect the elect during this time, right? It says, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation even to that same time. And at that time, thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book. We went over these verses time and time again. Okay, so yeah. All right, so we understand that Jacob's trouble is going to be a time that has never been seen upon the planet before. It's going to include anarchy, societal collapse, all of that. Okay, famine, people getting hauled off into concentration camps, civil unrest. And I asked Google Gemini here, I said, what is societal collapse and civil unrest? It says, while Jacob's trouble is a theological concept, societal collapse and civil unrest are the socio-political realities that often mirror those prophetic descriptions, because that's what it's talking about. That's what the scriptures are talking about. Think of them as the gears of a failing system. Societal collapse is the comprehensive breakdown of a civilization's social complexity, government, and basic services. It's not just a bad year, it's a total loss of the glue that holds the population together. So basically, it's like societal collapse is what? Basically when society breaks apart. You can't do the things you normally do in society. You can't go to the store anymore. You can't have access to government service like calling the police or ambulance, etc. Your daily life is stopped. You know, it just turns into straight chaos, anarchy. What you said?
Now I was going to bring out this Matthew 24:12.
You got it.
Let me see what it says. Because we know in the KJV it says, because iniquity shall abound. All right. And when you go into the etymology of iniquity, it pretty much goes into unfairness. Like you said, the glue, that holds things together. Yes, total loss of the glue that holds a population together. All right. Because essentially people are going to stop believing in this prosperous way of life. Yeah, the scriptures say, even what's that in Isaiah 13, how the nations are going to turn back to their own land.
Yeah, I got it. Read it? No.
Yeah, you can read it.
It's Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 14. It says, and it shall be as the chaste roe, and as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people, and flee every one to his own land.
Right, because these other nations, they come here, all right, for a better life, for a piece of the pie,
Right.
But even them being as greedy as they are, they're going to see it. Everyone's going to come to see, as Yahweh Shah was breaking down to his disciples. Everyone is going to come to see, or come to the terms that this place will rise no more.
Right.
That verse 12 in the NLT, it says, "Sin will be rampant everywhere, and the love of many will grow cold."
Mm, yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. In these times, yeah, man, definitely going to see a lot of that. But as it says, verse 13, but he that shall endure until the end, the same shall be saved. You know, so all that stuff is going on. You still got to endure. You know, that was all you had on Matthew. On that Matthew.
Yeah.
Con. All right. So societal collapse. It says the drivers. It usually isn't one single event. It's a perfect storm. It's a perfect storm of factors like environmental exhaustion, economic hyperinflation, and Apostle Tahar has been talking about hyperinflation. That's when price. That's when food prices skyrocket, man. Imagine a pound. Imagine a loaf of bread costing $90. Okay, imagine that. It says resource scarcity, food, water. You know, and the scriptures talk about that, man. The scriptures talk about that. It says, or the loss of a functioning central government. What does scripture say? Remember, it talks about. We're gonna get it in a minute, but it talks about man can't go into a city, because of their pride. The city shall be troubled. If the
Right.
city is troubled, that means um, the government, the normal like for them police officers and all that to keep everything in check, is gone. That stuff is out the window. You see, so you have different movies that show stuff like this, like The Purge. Okay, this is Jacob's trouble. It says the
Hey,
result.
Slocket.
Uh huh.
World War Z.
Yeah. That's
You remember when Tom Cruise, him and his wife was in the grocery store,
right.
and I think either one was getting ravished or beat up or some shit like that. And
Right.
I think who was it? Tom Cruise. He had a gun, and long story short, he seen a cop running in, thinking he was going, set things in order, but he ran right past him.
Yeah. Every man for himself. You know. It's gonna get. You actually gonna have cops that do that. Somewhere, someone's gonna some cop somewhere is gonna do that. Because they got families too, right?
Yeah. Hey, leading up to those times now, I seen something the other day. They were saying how I want to say it was in Minneapolis or one of these states, to where a cop, J cop, of course, she was off duty. So she, was pretty much being off duty, getting harassed by the ICE agents.
Mm. Yeah, and with these ICE agents and stuff, man, the Lord is setting up all the chess pieces. It's like he gave the cause, before Biden got out of office. He let these, migrants and stuff come in, just spill into America. And now Trump, we got a lot of Trump get in office and get these ICE people up here, you know, and using the migrants as a scapegoat to do all what he's doing now. And ultimately it's all the Lord's work.
Yeah, it's like pretty much Biden gave Trump, a high five when he was on his way out.
Yeah,
He
alley
like
oop.
introducing him.
Yeah. Yup. So it says here, it's under societal collapse. It says the result, a transition from a complex society, like how you have now, everything's up and running, to a more primitive, localized one. Things fall apart utterly. It says basic infrastructure, power grids, supply chains, and law enforcement stops functioning. Did we not just say that?
Hmm.
you know, when I typed this in, I ain't even read down this far. All right. Would we not just say that? This is what the scriptures describe. This is Jacob's trouble, and this is the times we're living in. We talk about blackout. The power grid going down. All right, they talk about food shortages and all of that stuff. You see people starting to fight back against law enforcement and ICE agents and all that stuff. Because even the ICE agents, they have on the back of their vest, it says police. Some of them, you know, but it said all that stuff stops functioning, right? And gives historical examples. Now, for civil unrest, it says civil unrest is a disruption of typical social order. It is often a symptom of a society that is under stress but hasn't fully collapsed yet. So right now, There's a little bit of civil unrest going on, you know, because of Trump and everything he's doing here in America and even around the world in different places. But it says the manifestation. This includes mass protests. Are we not living in this time? Are they over here, Minneapolis protesting, ICE riots, strikes, and general disobedience?
Mm-hmm.
And they just shot someone else. ICE agents. They just shot another man in Minneapolis. You know, and eventually it's going to get to a point where people are going to start, fighting back. We're going to be like, nah, we can't take this. It says the spectrum: low intensity, peaceful marches and sit-ins; high intensity, looting, arson, and violent clashes between citizens, and authorities. Shit, man, you already know what scripture I'm thinking of.
Second Ezra 15.
Yes, sir. But you know, I have it queued up here, so I ain't.
You
You know,
got. Oh, okay.
yeah. Remember, Trump said when the looting starts, the shooting starts. You know, and that high intensity is what we're gonna get into. That's why I said, uh, the last of that day is great, not great in a good way, but the intensity of it is very intense. That's what it meant by last for that day is great. It says the goal. Usually, the participants are trying to force the current system to change, whereas in a collapse, the system is completely gone. And this is why Trump wants to invoke the insurrection order. But all of this stuff entails in Jacob's trouble, man. And this is all for this is all gonna this is all sent by the Lord to punish the wicked Israelites, the wicked of you so-called blacks, Latino, Native Americans for your sins. Ezekiel 7:3-4. Actually, we need like 6. All right, it says, "Now is the end come upon thee, and I will send mine anger upon thee, and will judge thee according to thy ways, and will recompense upon thee all thine abominations. And mine eyes shall not spare thee, neither will I have pity, but I will recompense thy ways upon thee, and thine abominations shall be in the midst of thee, and ye shall know that I am Yahweh. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, evil and only evil, behold, is come. An end is come, the end is come. It watches for thee. Behold, it is come. You know, and we here. We here, man. So we in a time of Jacob's trouble, and it's just gonna get worse and worse and worse and worse. Now, did you have some?
Oh, nah. Nope.
Fine. All right. So real quick,
Hey,
this is
but you know what's crazy?
yeah.
Um, I was thinking about that a few weeks back. How this whole shit kind of started based upon an Edomite at one, but an Edomite that was a fucking that was gay.
Mm.
So I'm like, just goes to show you that this there's reasons why the Lord is allowing this place to be on fire.
Yep.
Why the Lord is putting the spirit on these devils to act the way they do. And Jake
Mm-hmm.
participated in the wickedness too. The Momo lifestyle.
Yeah, this place is past savable now. You can't stop the prophecies from coming. It's past savable. You know, it's slated to go out, and the Lord ain't gonna let nobody stop it. The Lord has, like the verse say, how stuff starts and stuff like that. You
Mm-hmm.
know, Lord will have somebody do something to set something off, okay,
Yeah.
and to fulfill His will.
Hey, and no matter how bad this world gets, these people, the people in this world, they will always set aside time to make sure they celebrate Christmas, celebrate Thanksgiving,
It's crazy.
celebrate Pride Month.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, that really is insane, man. Um, let me just try to get this real
Hey,
quick. Uh,
hey, while you get that, I was thinking about that so-called Thanksgiving, right?
yeah.
Now, what was it, a month before? People ain't where they was getting their food the next month. So you would think, if I would think as a logical person, okay, I know I might not be getting my food back next month. So if I do, or let me scrimp and save and do what I need to do to get by. But no, as soon as they got that food back, where they go? They want, you know, uh, make sure they use it on Thanksgiving, which is a pagan holiday.
Hmm. Yeah, man, this shit, man, is insane. You know, people still trying to hold on to the mercy of the land. Let it go already. You know, it's going. If you keep on trying to hold on to it, it's only going to hurt more when it's ripped away from you. So let it go. You know, this place is out.
Mm-hmm.
But this is Isaiah 46, 10 through 11 in NLT. It says, only I can tell you the future before it even happens. Everything I plan will come to pass, for I do whatever I wish. I will call a swift bird of prey from the east, a leader from a distant land to come and do my bidding. I have said what I would do, and I will do it. So instead of leader, but even Lord could just even use a person to just do his bidding, to fulfill his will. Like backing up what you said about how it all started. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so right. So hey, man, now we went through Jacob, what exactly Jacob's trouble is, but the scriptures talk about it, you know. So we're gonna go through it, man. So it's the book of Revelation, chapter 6, verses 7 and 8, titled The Fourth Seal of Death. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. Right? And this pale horse basically represents Jacob's trouble, right? It says death and hell, meaning the grave, follow with him. That's what's going to be coming during this time. That's what's going to be happening. A lot of death, just a lot of death and destruction. His power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. So there you go. This is what's going to be happening in these times. You're going to have people getting, dying by the sword, hunger, because it said to kill with sword and with hunger and with death and with the beasts of the earth. Animals ramping out here during Jacob's trouble. The zoos, lions are gonna get fed, and it's something like you look at the animals in the zoo, they ain't eating, but when they get out here, they're gonna be eating. You know, imagine walking somewhere and a fucking gorilla hop out or some shit, man, pack of them or something like that. You know, it's gonna get crazy out here. You're gonna see old ladies, old woman might get ripped apart by a pack of dogs. And you see it. You know, but yeah, it's gonna be a very, very gruesome time. Second Ezra 15, starting in verse 1. Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. And that's what the prophets have been doing, starting with our apostles and elders of Great Millstone and the like-minded brothers under them. We've been speaking the words of prophecy, of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shah's prophecy. Okay? We tell you about the things to come before they happen, right? And people are going to see them because what? They're faithful and true. You know, we still do come week in and week out to tell you these things, right? Speaking the words of prophecy. It says, verse 3, fear not the imaginations against thee, let not the incredulity or disbelief of them trouble thee that speak against thee. Because you have Jakes that came up to us throughout the years, all right, on the camps, even on the comment boards, like god damn, even on the comment boards, man, trying telling us they don't believe. That's crazy. You come up to somebody telling them you don't believe what they saying. If you don't believe it, what the fuck are you there for? You coming to me you coming to us to tell us you don't believe in something. It's crazy. You know, verse 4 says, all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. Now look, behold, you had something to say?
No, I was just thinking as you were saying that, it's like it's spiritual. Like they had to pronounce their disbelief in the Lord.
All right.
We just coming out of the scriptures.
Yeah.
So what is it that you truly don't believe? You don't believe in the scriptures. Just say that.
Right. Exactly. And then they want to make the beef about us, but it ain't with us. You got the beef with the Lord. He's the only one that can save you. So that's you gotta take that with him, man. You know, that's not a good look for you.
And you just had to proclaim it. Once
Yep.
like they say it's like worldly saying or whatever. Pretty much once it's out of your mouth, it's out there, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, he marked it. So
Mm-hmm.
Second Corinthians
Cats out the
15.
bag.
He said what?
I said cats out the bag, so to speak.
All the way out the bag. All the way out the bag. Eating the cat food all the way out the bag. You know? It says here, second Ezra 15:5, behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. You know, that's people be wondering why is all this stuff going on in the world. This is the answer. This is literally the answer. People wondering why, things are happening, why all of this stuff is the way it is, like all this chaos is going on right now, Trump and what they're doing in the earth. This is why. This is the answer right here. And it's only going to get worse. Okay. The Lord's bringing all this upon the world. And Jacob's trouble consists of literally all these things.
Yeah, I looked up some on the Google unprecedented times of biblical proportion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it says key aspects, right? It says unprecedented times of biblical proportions is a phrase used to describe modern catastrophic or transformative events that feel as immense, chaotic, or consequential as those depicted in the Bible. It is often employed in the context of major global crises such as the CV pandemic, climate disasters, and locust swarms to emphasize their extreme scale and impact. And these are things like the CV. It says locust swarms. In 2020, the United Nations described massive locust swarms affecting East Africa, Southwest Asia, and the Arabian Peninsula as a scourge of biblical proportions. Climate and environmental disasters. Extreme weather, including massive droughts in Iran and severe flooding in Colorado, has been described in these terms. Analysts have noted that such descriptions are sometimes applied to 1 in 500 or 1,000-year events, indicating a significant shift in environmental stability. Um, Political and social unrest. Some commentators have likened contemporary geopolitical tensions, wars, and societal divisions to the beginning of sorrows or great tribulation mentioned in biblical prophecy.
Mm. Biblical prophecy. Hey, I'm not gonna lie, Great Millstone is the camp to watch. As the elder apostle Tahar says, GMS is a camp of prophets, man. You know, that's the camp to watch. It's oh man, right now, if knowing prophecy, hey, look, this might be another lesson for another time. Like knowing prophecy in these days, man, it puts you it's like you basically on another level than everybody else already, because we in them times, you know. These people don't know prophecy. Not even these Christian pastors and everything. If you know the prophecies, right, it already you are on another level than everybody else. You see, you're already that person that people will be looking for in the times to come. It just hasn't got worse yet. And so that just goes to show you, the worse it gets, the more the more you know valuable you know you're going to be. But it says, verse 6, for wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. I'm going to jump down a little bit. Verse 10 says, behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt, but I will bring them, and Egypt is America. That's the modern day Egypt, the new Egypt. But I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, which is talking about Yahweh coming back to deliver the elect, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy the land thereof. So the plagues that was brought on ancient Egypt, right, are going to come on this new Egypt. Okay, the Lord going to bring them upon America, and guess what? One of those plagues was the darkness. The days of dark, the days of darkness back in that time. And so America, hey, we're going to have it to where there's a blackout. There's been talks of blackouts. Okay, all of this stuff is within the realm of Jacob's trouble. Okay, it's in the bracket of Jacob's trouble. Blackouts, the power grid, family, And I remember last year, sometime or the year before that, I think like uh, late 2024 or something like that. They had the talks of blackouts was real like high. You know, it was real like it was really high. Um, and when it gets dark out, and then some places have blackouts. I remember having that area. It gets dark out, man. You know, and especially at nighttime, you trying to look inside a house, the whole house is dark. It's going to be a very scary time in these times, man. Jacob's trouble, you know. But the Lord's going to bring, and back then they had what? Strange apparitions. The Lord's going to bring all that stuff on this place, America. It says, and will destroy all the land thereof by nuclear missiles. That's going to be at the end of Jacob's trouble, though. Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that Yahweh shall bring upon it. They that till the ground shall mourn, for their seed shall fail through the blasting and hail and with the fearful constellation. Talking about farmers and their crops, messing up and things like that. Now, here we are, nitty gritty. Verse 14, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. Right, and the woe, death, and destruction to the world that dwell therein. That's what's coming. And one people says, one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And we have that, seeing how some of these people conform, how some of these things conform, because what you have, what you got, like, what people that's, how they talk about politics, the left versus the right, and then you have different classes as well, the rich versus the poor and all that stuff. And in that first Purge movie, they showed you that the poor and the rich and all that stuff breaking into their homes and stuff like that. You see, people, you got people, people basically divided against one another. Groups of people divided against one another, fighting each other. It says in swords in their hands, so they're gonna have guns, different shootouts and stuff. People, killing people with like knives, bats, all that stuff. Tasers, stun guns, all that stuff, man. It's going to be deadly out here. It says, for there shall be sedition among men. Let me just type in sedition real quick. All right. Oh, and by the way, it says about civil unrest, right? Because right now we living in a time of somewhat civil unrest. It says civil unrest is often the prelude to collapse. When a government can no longer provide safety or resources, the social contract breaks. People stop following laws because the system no longer serves them, leading to unrest. If that unrest is not resolved, it can spiral into a total collapse of the state. A note on modern context, scholars often point to cascading failures, where one small break in the high-tech supply chain leads to a domino effect as the biggest risk for modern societal collapse. All right. And people said people stop following law because the system no longer serves them, leading to unrest. And when you look at what's the name? When you look at Trump's approval rating, it's bad. Trump approval rating, it's real bad. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Uh, okay, I seen somewhere else it was in the negatives, but they say here. Okay, so these are from different polls and stuff like that. It says for example, rear clear polling's average of polls from January 8th to January 22nd shows a 42.6% approval and 54.7% disapproval rate. Trump's job approval rating was 36%. All right. Let me see. I saw something else to say in the negatives. Like these people tired of it, man. Where is it? Oh shit. Yeah, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
All right. Okay. Maybe it's this one. Oh, no, it's not letting me do it. Uh, I'll find it. Um, 'Cause I had looked it up before. It was on that Economist one, but they're not loading it on my computer. But it was in the negatives. All right. But basically, and you could just go on like social media and see how everyone does it. They really disapprove of this guy. You know, they really disapprove of this man Trump and the job he's doing. You know, nobody really likes him anymore. Not even some of his own, MAGA people. Okay. Okay. So what is sedition? So we just read that scripture. It says in simple terms, sedition is any speech or action that encourages people to rebel against the authority of a state or monarch. It's often described as the stepping stone to treason. While treason involves active betrayal, like spying for an enemy or taking up arms, sedition is the act of inciting that betrayal through words, organizing, or literature. Okay, so you're gonna have that going on. People, inciting rebellion. It says invading one another. People are gonna be invading another person's house and all that stuff, right? And these movies like this, like Bushwick, show you that. Let me just see something real quick. Bushwick. You know, they these elites, man, they know what they be doing, man. All right, with these movies. Okay, they know what they be doing. If I just pull up a picture, that's all I want is a picture. You know, this is a good example of not the scripture I was reading, but just to show you how like everything is going to shit, basically. You got smoke here, smoke there. You know, military in the air. This stuff is going to be real life. All right, but if you watch the movie, they have examples in there like people jumping through people's windows and stuff like that. Um, like one of the main characters did that. And they torturing this dude. So they were trying to get answers. One of the troops and stuff they was torturing, trying to get answers out of him. Right, but it says they shall. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? That scene.
Yeah, when pretty much they had went to the girl's sister house,
Right.
and dude had swum through the window. So other guy, the main character, Batista, whatever, he broke his nose, some shit, and I forgot. That was actually a prominent scene because
Mm-hmm.
they were saying how they didn't expect, for them to get so much pushback, the militia.
Yep.
But a
Yeah.
lot of mhm. A lot of people,
Everybody-
even nowadays, uh, they mentioned that America is one of the, I don't know if it's the only place, but is a place that has more guns than citizens. So
Mm.
they, it's not going to be it's not going to be easy, especially heavily populated like New York City, Chicago,
Come
California.
on, man.
It's going to be very difficult. Texas.
Yeah. And you got real weak-minded people out here. Like I'm talking about, not even just not people like you got real like soggy cereal flake people out here that if they see the slightest like people like for example the people that uh pass out if they see blood. Just imagine when the stuff started going shit out here, man. Them type of people they're gonna be the first to go. You know, the first to go when all of this stuff happens. Like when we read these scriptures, like picture the time frame that it's talking about. You know, but it says, "For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. Why? For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid." And that's one of the reasons that we just said before, because of their pride, the city shall be troubled. Let me just see, right? That was 2 Corinthians 15 and 18. Um, Hold on. Just see what it said. What the second Esdras chapter 15 verse 18 mean? See what they say. Just break down a meaning. You get right down to it. Says the breakdown of security. The city shall be troubled. This refers to civil unrest and the loss of public order. The urban centers, usually the heart of civilization, become the epicenters of fear. All right, let me just see what an urban center is real quick. Urban center. It says any institution whose core mission is to inform. All right, let me see if I can pull a picture. Okay, yeah, places like these. The cities shall be troubled. You see a lot of city pictures, urban areas. These city pictures. It says those become the epicenters of fear. The houses shall be destroyed. This signifies a total loss of domestic safety. When the house is no longer a sanctuary, it implies societal collapse, where the government can no longer protect private property or individual lives. It says the atmosphere of fear. The phrase "men shall be afraid" suggests a state of perpetual anxiety. This isn't just fear of a single event, but a deep seated terror that comes when the structures people rely on, which is economy, law, community, disappear. That, I read that last part again, but a deep seated terror that comes when the structures people rely on, which is economy, law, and community, disappear. Woe unto them that go down to Egypt for help. You know, you trust in this place. It's not going to help. It's not going to help you. You're relying on it. You're trusting on it. You're leaning on it. When it disappears, all of that stuff about this place that you you trust in it for disappears. You're going to be afraid. You're not going to have any protection. You don't want to turn to the Lord, so you're not going to have any protection. Okay. Now going back, right? It said a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, because what? Another thing is quarantine. Or the city is on lockdown, martial law. Okay. Let me just see what wait. Can a city be locked down during martial law? It says, and the thing is, we got Trump trying to invoke the Insurrection Act. It says yes, a city can be locked down during martial law. In fact, restricting movement is one of the primary ways military authorities attempt to restore order when they take over. Because martial law is when the city is it's like when the military is in power. That's instead of the police. Under martial law, the civilian government and police are temporarily replaced or bypassed by military authority. This gives the commanding officer broad, almost unlimited power to make and enforce rules that would be unconstitutional under normal circumstances. Yeah, you have some?
Yeah. So I was just looking up on the chat because you remember I had mentioned it was a dialogue between the military man and Bushwick and
Mm-hmm.
one of the main characters, Lucy.
Yeah.
And it was I believe it was a very important part of that movie, Bushwick. So I'll just read it. It says this is a paraphrased dialogue. After the soldier crashes through the window and is overpowered, Lucy interrogates him. Shaken but angry, she wants to know why this is happening and how got so out of control. The soldier, injured and bitter, admits admits that the invasion didn't go according to plan. He explains that they expect civilians to panic, scatter, or surrender. Instead, people fought back harder and more chaotically than anticipated. He says the citizens knew the streets better, blended in, and turned everyday buildings into traps. What was supposed to be a quick control operation turned into a mess. The soldiers weren't prepared for the level of resistance or the brutality of urban combat against their own people.
Mm.
It says Lucy presses him about almost incredulous, pointing out that they're just regular people trying to live their lives. It says the soldier responds with a mix of frustration and resignation. That was exactly the problem. Civilians didn't behave like civilians. There were no clear battle lines, no rules, no way to tell who was a threat. Fear and desperation made everyone dangerous.
Hmm.
So that's going exactly what you have read about that second Ezra 15 and 15.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the movies show you different things, and that's no man. Just imagine if they had. Imagine what we probably would have saw if they released that movie Gray State. Imagine what we would have
Yeah.
saw, man. You know, I guess it was too on point.
Oh yeah. It wasn't Tom because he's yeah, that's pretty I believe that's the case too. Like these other movies like Civil War, that shit is pretty much watered down version. Oh, they was talking about the chip in that movie too. Ray State
Mm.
had it ever
And
came out.
you said in Gray State they was talking about it.
Yeah, I was seeing the trailer. They was talking about the chip.
Uh, um, yeah, man. Shit, you know, Jacob's trouble. Shit, time of trouble. That shit made nothing good. Not nothing good. You know,
And you know,
huh?
no, I was gonna say Trump, knowing how he is, he's gonna come down. Like the scripture say, having great wrath. He's gonna have to. He knows he's gonna have to come down with the hammer. Because remember when Trump threatened to bring in troops to Chicago, Jake was talking about they had switches. So you know
Yeah.
this devil ain't coming nice.
Hell no.
Hell,
What?
he could come one of these days when it's cold as shit.
Mm-hmm. Lions ain't really standing on the block like that neither.
Mm-hmm. Come and grab you out of your house,
Mm-hmm.
put you in a concentration camp that's outside in a fucking brick cold with your drawers on.
Sheesh, man. Ooh, no shoes, no socks, no nothing.
Nope. Talking about you got a kid. Remember, I don't know if I don't know if you remember. It was like this happened last year. As a matter of fact, ICE had did an invasion in this one a building in Chicago.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You remember that? And pretty much, the black woman. Oh, the kids, it's cold. This, that, and third. And one of them was like, "Yo, fuck them kids." Because remember, they had the kid. They had took the kids out and they had them tied up in zip ties and stuff.
Yeah, you know, imagine having you people out in like a line, outside the building or whatever, like kneeling on the pavement in the cold, you know,
Yeah.
with no pants on, like you said, drawers and shit, man.
That's why I remember the other Yashiramba. He was saying like Jake like to sleep in his drawers and stuff, but it's not wise. Sleeping in some sweatpants or something, because you never know. You might have to get up, or you might be waking up to a Gurga troop or something.
Mm, right.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Always be ready.
Um, Jake, man. Jake, yo. Oh man. Damn. But for more on this martial law thing, it says strict curfews, military orders often include shoot to arrest or stay at home mandates during specific hours, roadblocks and checkpoints. Movement in and out of the city is usually cut off to prevent sedition from spreading or to stop the movement of supplies and weapons. See, so once again, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. That other movie they had, I forget. It was what was it? It's
Civil
like
War.
Songbird. Yeah,
Oh,
Songbird.
Songbird.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, man. These devils, man. And remember that came out what 2018, something like that,
Mm-hmm. 2018, 2019, around that time, yeah.
right before the CV situation.
Yup. It says suspension of habeas corpus. This is the most significant change. Authorities may gain the power to detain individuals indefinitely, which means I believe like, without a time limit. They can have you for however long they want without a trial or a warrant. And they just said ICE can man, they just said that ICE can enter. See, you have to type it all in. It says here, uh, AP News, immigration officers assert sweeping power. to enter homes without a judge's warrant. Memo says, see, ICE, the back of the thing says police. A whole bunch of devils against who? Jake. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this shit gonna get bad, man.
Hell yeah, you know Jay gonna buck up. Can I see your warrant?
Yeah, look at her. Her mouth already open. The goddamn black woman, man. Oh
Oh, so
my
you
goodness,
were you resisting, huh?
the mouth open already. Already, gosh, goddamn, man. You know, on a news article too, like the elder Renata Zakbar would say. Last time I see the mouth like that was with a hook in it.
Yo, imagine they how it was a video, not a video. I seen an article where it was like an older. I don't know if he was Jake or what, but he was an older dude. They had took him out and just he was pretty much naked. He had on underwear and that was that. This was recently, so it was, it was cold out.
Yeah, yeah, man. And these devils, man, they've been waiting to do this for a minute.
They should not regard old nor the young.
Yup. It says identification requirements, mandatory fingerprinting, or the requirement to carry special military issued ID cards is common. Seizure of resources. The military may commandeer, or take over local businesses, hospitals, or private homes to house troops or secure food and fuel. Scriptures talk about all that, right? So let me get back. 2 Corinthians 15. It says, "For because of their pride, cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid." It's a very scary time. And these people don't understand the prophecies. So they really left in the dark about all of this. It
Mm-hmm.
says, "A man shall have no." Mhm.
Essentially, that's pride. When you go out to protest,
Yeah,
you have pride because you're trying to stand on your rights. These are my rights. The
right.
devil saying, "Fuck your rights." So
Yeah.
we seeing it play out because of their pride. The city shall be troubled. Trump is like, you want to protest?
Mm.
I
Right.
got tear gas for that protest. The houses shall be destroyed. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because you're gonna have within the protest now you got somebody to cause some type of attack, which would cause them to further go into people's homes. Even more. With force. Taking down whole neighborhoods, whole buildings.
Yup. Yeah, don't be surprised if because remember Apostle Har said this year is the year of apostasy, sellouts, and agents. Don't be surprised if we hear about one of these false prophets out here getting taken up by ICE or put to death or something. You know?
Chief Ephraim.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
always he always this nigga never really show up until like some really some carnal protest or some shit is happening. That's the only time that dude really show up. You never really hear about him other than that.
Yeah. Like, what about now? Where his name at now? You know? But verse 19 it says, "A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods, because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation." This also goes show you the lack of bread. Famine is coming, right? It's gonna be another reason people start, breaking in your house, right? It says with the sword, they're gonna have a gun to have leverage on you, make you do what they want, spoil your goods, may take your goods from you. Why? Because of the famine and for great tribulation, the hard times. The great trouble, Jacob's trouble. This is Jacob's trouble that's being described here, right? And that's going to be a scary thing. Imagine, you think you're safe in there. You hear, people that got these big houses. Imagine, you on a top floor with your family, all afraid, looking at the news. Then you hear a window crack in your kitchen. Ain't nobody downstairs. Then you start hearing like 4 footsteps. That stuff is going to happen, man. You know, people ain't ready for this stuff, man. 2 Corinthians 15:24. Woe to them that sin and keep not my commandments, say the Lord. I will not spare them. Go your way, ye children, from the power, defile not my sanctuary. For the Lord knoweth all them that sin against him, and therefore delivereth he them unto death and destruction. For now are
Mm.
the plagues come upon the whole earth, and ye shall remain in them. For Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai shall not deliver you, because ye have sinned against him.
Okay, so that's talking about a YN. That's talking about a thought. Talking about a mo. You know, you're not gonna be called an Israelite. You're gonna be called a Puerto Rican and Dominican because that's what you probably be anyway.
Mm-hmm.
A Mole, an American, all of the above.
Yep. Hey, this is Second Ezra 9:9. It says, "Then shall they be in pitiful case, in a bad situation, which now have abused my ways." Jake turning, not hearkening to the Lord, keeping the commandments and stuff like that. And they that have cast them away despitefully shall dwell in torments. All the chaos that's coming, the martial law, the FEMA troops, all that stuff, the famine, the great slaughtering out here that's gonna come, being you know chased or haunted by apparitions and all that. Jake gonna get caught up in all of it, all of it. Verse 10, "For such as in their life have received benefits and have not known me, and they that have loathed my law, while they had yet liberty, and when as yet place of repentance was open unto them, understood not, but despised it, the same must know it after death by pain."
Mm-hmm. And you know what? I, as you was reading that, I was thinking about the elder brother, in South Carolina, Manata Zakba,
Mm-hmm.
and you know how he does various videos on how people feel about the Hebrew Israelites. But I honestly believe it's not really based upon Great Millstone. Their belief is based upon a off camp that's probably
Right.
over righteous, or you know how they do. You know, they go out there and they just curse out everybody that walk past.
Yeah.
Like, remember that one Jake the other day? It was a few weeks back. He's like, "Oh, I got to start some shit with y'all because y'all gonna do it to me." You know.
Mm.
But I bring that out is because through these off camps, their antics, that's how they view Israel. So in
Right.
that case, they loathe the law of the Lord. You know.
Mm. Yeah. And Jake is gonna get caught up in it, man. All them hot days, some hot summer days, them cold winters, we had to stand out there. Hey, at
Yeah.
least we was doing that because now, when these times come, now we have work stored up with the Lord now, you know. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
good thing we did that. All right. I'm
Yep.
pretty how about Sharp allowing us to be in a position to do that. So now these times come, we have works with the Lord to where He could have mercy on us for. You know,
Yeah.
whereas Jake, who in the meantime while we was doing that, they called themselves winning. Now they about to lose miserably. Okay. Um,
Yeah. Right.
So right now, we going into the things because we, was reading about Jacob's trouble. Now we going into what Jacob's trouble entails. And once again, this is lessons, these lessons, we've been doing recently is trying to put prophecy into perspective. So all of this stuff is going to be going on before the missiles get here. Before Yahweh Shai comes. All this stuff is going to be going on. Okay. But even as it was saying back in Matthew, it said immediately after the tribulation of those days. So there's a time. So it's a time period that the Lord has set up. So the Lord has a certain ending time for Jacob's troubles to happen. Okay, it has a time for it to start and a time for it to end. You know, we just don't know. Right? We know we can see by the signs and stuff that we are in them times now. All right. Now, Second Ezra 16, verse 1. So now we're going into what Jacob's trouble entails. It says, "Woe be unto thee, Babylon and Asia. Woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria." Different names for America, right? Asia, different Asian countries. Verse 2, "Gird up yourselves with cloths of sack and hair. Bewail your children and be sorry, for your destruction is at hand." Yeah. And everybody could feel that basically without knowing it, that their destruction is at hand. These people, their destruction, their death and destruction is near. You know, it says, "A sword is sent upon you, and who may turn it back? A fire is sent among you, and who may quench it? Plagues are sent unto you, and what is he that may drive them away? May any man drive away an hungry lion in the wood?" Right? If you see a lion that's hungry, you think you're going to be able to turn him away from you? No. Or may anyone quench the fire and stubble when it hath begun to burn? The answer is no. So think about that, right? You know, these are all rhetorical questions. This is, may one turn again the arrow that is shot of a strong archer. And now, you remember when we were doing Remember when we was doing archery? You know, you had to pull the string back hard too. You know, so imagine back in the ancient times, you have a really strong archer because you could pull it back hard enough and you strong like that. That arrow is flying. Ain't no stopping that arrow. Ain't no reverse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's gonna hit even harder. So you think
Yep.
you're gonna be so you think you're gonna be able to reverse the arrow shot of a strong archer in midair? It's not easy to make a arrow reverse from a strong archer, man. It's not easy. See? So just like that, right? It says the mighty Lord sendeth the plagues, and who is he that can drive them away? And the answer is no one. These plagues consist of once again the famine, the sword, the chaos that's coming, the martial law, the taking in concentration camps, okay, the death and destruction that's going to be out here. All of these plagues are coming, all right. And it was asking these questions to say who, rhetorically asking them, you know, saying that these plagues the Lord is sending, including the missiles, because the missiles are a plague as well. So basically saying that these plagues that the Lord is sending, all right, on America, all right, etc., right? Nobody can stop them. This world is going to experience this time of Jacob's trouble. The world is going to experience it. Ain't no stopping it. People looking at Trump like he's some type of, or was looking at him like he's some type of savior. You know, he was coming in for office. But look at the world. You know, ain't no stopping it. Ain't no stopping the plagues the Lord is sending. It says, "A fire shall go forth from his wrath, and who is he that may quench it? He shall cast lightnings, and who shall not fear? He shall thunder, and who shall not be afraid? The Lord shall threaten, and who shall not be utterly beaten to powder at his presence? The earth quaketh, and the foundations thereof. The sea ariseth up with waves from the deep, and the waves of it are troubled, and the fishes thereof also before the Lord and before the glory of his power." Why now? Why would the earth shake? Because of nuclear missiles. That was hitting the earth because that caused what waves to come up out of the sea like tsunamis. The fishes thereof because of the contamination and all that from the nukes. And it tells you why. The next verse: "For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow, which is the silos, the nuclear silos. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp, so the arrows are the missiles, and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world." All right, ICBMs, because they're going to be using these last days. They're not made for nothing. Um, Adam, you got some? You say I'm about to just look up something real quick. Let's see. Just like this. Yeah, this is how a nuclear missile operates. One continent, that's called intercontinental, from one end of the earth and to another. See, and that shows you the trajectory of it, how it works. It goes out of space, and Joel 2 describes this, and then it breaks off, and then the warheads come down. They had heads, and with them they do hurt. You know, verse 14 says, "Behold, plagues are sent, and shall not return again until they come upon the earth." So these plagues, they sent. Okay, ain't no stopping it. Ain't no stopping it, man. People, don't want to experience this time. People, trying to get their minds off of the things that's going on in the world. But that's ultimately that's not going to stop it. No matter no amount of peace talks with governments, and sitting down, and no amount of that is going to stop what the Lord has to bring on this world. You see these governments doing that. Like Trump going everywhere to have talks and conferences and all that. No amount of that is going to stop these plagues from coming. Okay, it's unavoidable. All these plagues the Lord is sending is unavoidable, including the missiles. It says, "Like as an arrow that is shot of a mighty archer returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon the earth shall not return again." This is just saying the same thing. You know, verse 17. You got some?
Nah.
Okay, come. It says, "Woe is me, woe is me. Who will deliver me in those days?" And everybody about to feel like this. You know, Ezra felt like this because, and let's go. Ezra is back now somewhere. Okay, Esdras is back now somewhere, and more likely in one of the GMS camps. Okay, but he said this back in this carnation. You know what I'm saying? Because he was, this was revealed to him. This everything that's going on here. He said, "Who's going to deliver me in those days?" Because he saw how bad it is. He saw how bad it's going to be. All right, when this stuff really starts popping off, right? So he's like, "Who's going to deliver him?" And answer is Yahweh Shai. Verse 18: the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars. All this stuff is going to be going on. Sorrows, great mournings, the famine, death, great death. It says great for a reason. The war, beginning of wars. All of this stuff is going to be going on in this time. It says, and the power shall stand in fear, because it's going to get to a point where these higher ups, they are not going to be able to control it when it gets to a certain level. It says the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Okay? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sin and scourge for men. Yeah, with the Lord sending these things in the world, these troublesome times and all that. They're scourges or punishments, to get right and everything. However, though for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Because they just, continue about their day. They don't care. They don't think about it. They're not mindful of it. See?
Yeah, if I could add too, it said the power shall stand in fear.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something, because America has a very immense, very highly technological military, technological weaponry. So if they're going to stand in fear, it has to be something outside of this realm.
Yeah.
Seeing strange apparitions. Angels probably going to get, I mean, the angels, yeah, but the chariots probably going to come lower.
Yeah. Yeah, times. We in them times.
And that's, yeah. Because how the fuck, they got nuclear bunkers. Why would they be in fear?
Yeah. You think why these things are being made. It's like, well, when you know the prophecies, you understand why this stuff is going on. They just don't got the understanding. See? They just don't got it. Verse 21 says, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be a good case. And victuals is goods, items. And you remember that, years ago. I remember seeing one of them like regular Gatorade bottles, not the little like pint type of ones, little suns. I'm talking about the big ones. I seen that for $1, somewhere, But at one point in time, items and goods and food and stuff like that was cheap. It was cheap to buy, and people thought everything was all right. They thought life was good back then. But then it says, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. So even though they thought they were in a good case, evil started growing and growing and growing and growing. It said grow. That's how you know stuff is starting to get worse. It says, for many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. You have people that's gonna be dying of famine out here. They'll be looking. They gotta think the Lord got to be like gonna have to be like hiding the food from them or something. Because they're gonna be looking high and low for food, man. Willing to take from other people, willing to eat other people. You see, and their bodies are just gonna be wasting away. And those that don't, because you have people that stock up on food, which that's gonna be for the elect. However, it says shall the sword destroy. So that could be somebody shooting them getting taken to a concentration camp and killed there. Somebody might literally have a sword. Okay, they might get stabbed or something like that. But the Lord, hey, in these times, Jacob's trouble, the protection is promised to the elect. Job 5:19, he shall deliver thee in 6 troubles. The Lord going to get Jake. It's like the Lord going to get the elect. He's going to deliver them throughout anything they face in that time. Yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee, because they're going to be in a chariot. In famine he shall redeem thee from death. You're going to eat. And in war from the power of the sword. Going to protect you from the looters, the troops, and everything. You know, we in them times because we hear about ICE like daily. You know, we hear about ICE more than a refrigerator, man. You know, so the Lord's gonna protect us in that time. Okay, from the troops, the marauders, the looters, all that stuff. Okay, it's definitely prophesied to come. You know, verse 23, and the dead shall be cast out as dung. You know, you think about seeing dog shit on the street when you're walking, you know, here and there and there and there and there. Just imagine in one city how many times, you know, poop is just on the street, you know, from animals and stuff. You know, it's a lot. So this time is gonna be like dead bodies just everywhere. You know, um, you see body parts. Like I said, you might see a head under a car or something walking down the street. You know, you might see half of a body or like a torso out in the middle of the road, just laying lifeless. You know, that's going to be real stuff in Jacob's trouble. It says, "For the earth shall be wasted, and the city shall be cast down." Give me 1 second. Yeah. All right. It said, no man to comfort them either, because nobody's going to come and tell them that, you know, everything's all right, got it under control. It's not going to happen. And when you don't have that happening, it's you know, you know, you're in some serious trouble. It says, there shall be no man left to till the earth and to sow it. You're not gonna have, you know, people that you're not gonna have, you know, like these farmers around and everything, you know, working the ground. The trees shall give fruit, and who shall gather them? Because nature's still gonna grow. You're gonna have the trees and everything, right? But you're not gonna have people to come gather it. The grapes shall ripen, and who shall tread them? You got people that turn grapes into a wine, send them off to wine stores and stuff like that, liquor stores and all that. But you're not gonna have those people around to do that. Why? For all places shall be desolate of men. And if you look at this word desolate real quick, it says desolate of a place deserted of people and in a state of bleak and dismal emptiness. Make a place bleakly and depressingly empty or bare. Okay, so desolate means empty, right? And why is it going to be empty? Because a lot of people are going to be dying. Okay, people are going to be off in concentration camps, FEMA camps, hauled off. What's that? Uh, Raya 14, 1. Oh no, 2. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished. Yeah, you women are going to be getting great. You really going to be the worst in trouble. These women, these Instagram models, all of them, they're going to be in trouble. Okay, you're going to need a man of the Lord. All right, and these ICE troops, hey, just let stuff start ramping up. You remember that? You remember that? They talked about what was it? Some ICE agent. You know, he had been raping this woman for months. You know what I'm talking about? Hey, hey, come on, can you hear me? Nope. All right, brother, I stepped away. But yeah, anyways, they had been raping, you know, a woman for months. You know, but it says, and the women ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity. Because what? People gonna be getting hauled off in the concentration camps. You see, so you're not gonna have people around. You know, so that's why you're not gonna have people, you know, to till the earth and to sow it, to gather the fruit of the trees, you know, the grapes and wine and all that. Because it's gonna be empty of men, right? It's going to be you know, desolate, empty. You know, people are gonna be dead. People are going to be, you know, hauled off in the concentration camps. People are going to be trying to hide and be on the move to survive for themselves, right? So, and it's going to be so empty. And you see a colon, it's not a period, it's not finished. it's going to be so empty that what? So that meaning going to be so empty so that one man shall desire to see another and to hear his voice. So you imagine that, like in a big city like New York, right? Or Chicago. Let's get a picture. New York City, Manhattan. Right? This is all the stuff Jacob's trouble is going to entail. Now look at this right here. This is crazy. This is exactly how it is over there. Hellhole too. Look at this shit, man. All these people, all these people. Hey, Ak, you still there? But I'll be there. I'll be there. So good. But you see how full it is of people? Okay. You know, it's just straight people everywhere. You know, it's people everywhere. Just imagine it being all empty. You know, you don't see people for like miles because of the destruction. So imagine all the death and calamity that has to be happening to people. And thing is, during that time, the elect gonna be laughing. Job 5:21. Thou shalt be hid from the scourge of the tongue, neither shalt thou be afraid of destruction when it cometh. At destruction and famine thou shalt laugh. See, they'll be laughing. 2 16:28. Back here it says, for of a sea there shall be 10 left, and 2 of the field, Salakia, which shall hide themselves in the thick groves and in the clefts of the rocks. So you got people, you know, hiding in safe houses, abandoned buildings, because they might, you know, be a target, you know, for troops or people that's out there, you know, violent people that's out there, dangerous people, or gangs or something like that. You know, they'll be hiding. Verse 29 it says, as in an orchard of olives upon every tree there are left 3 or 4 olives, whereas when a vineyard is gathered, there are left some clusters of them that diligently seek to the vineyard. Even so, in those days, there shall be 3 or 4 left by them that search their houses with the sword. Okay, and yes, so like in the law, it tells you not to, you know, entirely reap the crops of the field, to leave some for the poor people, right? So, and there be a few crops of grapes left. Likewise, during Jacob's trouble, there be troops with weapons coming and rounding people up, going door to door, and taking people to camps, and might leave some or not catch everyone. You know. Also, there's going to be people that have weapons breaking in people's homes and invading it. So the scripture is likening the people that are left of all this, right? To the few clusters of grapes, showing how few and scarce it will be to see people regularly in that time, and due to this reason described in this verse as well. You know, so and once again, they just said ice could go door to door. Check that out. You know, verse 32: and the earth shall be laid waste, and the fields thereof shall wax old, and her ways and all her paths shall grow full of thorns, because no man shall travel there through. All right, and they show you things like that in like different movies and shows, like the Road. All right, like this picture here, The Last of Us as well. You know, you see the buildings with you know, the vines and nature all growing all over it, the cars and all that. One time that was a bustling society. Now it's all broke down. You know, you see the brick people walking. People used to walk through the road, all overgrown. Of course, the nature growing wild all around the cars, pavement, and all of that. That's going to be happening because people ain't going to be going through there. You ain't got nobody to come uh, take care of it. You know. So yeah. Verse 33, the virgins shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The women shall mourn, having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. And it said the women are going to mourn because what? They're not going to have men. Why? In the war, verse 34, in the war shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine. See? So this is for these regular men out here, right? They're going to be getting drafted off in World War III. You know, they're going to die out there. And it's regular different, like, you know, regular shootouts and stuff like that. Okay. You know, They will be dying. Men will be dying from famine and stuff like that. So where's that going to leave these women? It's going to leave them without protectors. Okay, they're going to be vulnerable because in a time like this, women talk all this shit now. They're not going to be able to pop none of that when all hell breaks loose. Okay, you're not going to be able to pop none of that, man. You know, it says they're going to mourn, so they talk about they don't like men. They're going to want men in that day, but they're going, this just goes to also show how valuable these women are going to be. Slocking, not a man of the Lord is going to be in that day. That's why the scriptures say this, Isaiah 13:12. It says, "I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir." This man is a man of the Lord because he's going to have the Lord with him, protecting him, feeding him. Okay, uh, as well as he's going to know what's going on. Right, it's Isaiah 33:6. "And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai is his treasure." He's going to know what's to come. See, the thing is, these times are going to come, and the elect will be living through them. The elect are going to be living through these times. Okay? You're going to be seeing this stuff go on. The whole world's going to be affected by Jacob's trouble. Right? But the elect is going to be, man, they're going to be prized possession in that day. It makes sense why these women are going to come running after them. Isaiah 32:2. So you think now, like, women, they don't want you because of your looks. You brother that don't get women like that, they don't want you because of your looks. Wait till Jacob's trouble is in full effect. We live in nitty gritty of it. Just wait. Isaiah 32:2. "And a man, elect man, shall be as an hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land." Okay? An elect man is going to be a protector in that day. He's going to be a protector. You see? So, the Lord's going to give him spiritual powers to be able to protect himself and the women he's with. And you think like, you're going to have groups of men trying to come up against him. Say it's just one elect brother and a bunch of women with him, and then you have like 3, 5, 7 dudes trying to come up and take him over, and take the women and do what they want. You think the Lord's going to let that happen? Hell no. He's going to give him spiritual power. He's going to be able to handle them. Okay, so we living in a time that spiritual powers is about to be popping off, man. Okay, we living in that time. All right, we're living in that time. Okay, you see why these women are going to be running to men of the Lord. You see it. Isaiah 4:1. "And in that day, Jacob's trouble, 7 women, it's a complete amount of women, multiple women, shall take hold of one man." And this word "take hold of," as the elder Chazak brought out, is Chazak, right? And in this case, it says to press or be urgent. So they're going to be begging, they're going to be pleading, begging. Women don't like to plead and beg, right? They're going to be pleading and begging to be with a brother in that day, saying, "We eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name." And how does a woman take on a man's last name? Marriage. And what is marriage? Sex. So this brother's going to be sleeping with these different women that he's with. He's going to be popping them. That's to take away our reproach. But they're going to be begging and crying. And hey, if the brother rejects them, then they reject. A lot of women are going to get rejected as well. See, and that's just the that's just what it is. Okay, brother's going to be on the move, as it says in 2 Ezra 16:40. "O my people, hear my word. Make you ready to thy battle, and in those evils be even as pilgrims upon earth." See, pilgrim is a wanderer. You move from place to place. And Jacob's trouble said, "In those evils, evil time." I wanted to get some off of this chapter, right? Let me jump down, right? Because Jacob's trouble is going to involve all of this stuff, man. 2 Ezra 16, starting in verse 67. "Behold, Yahweh himself is a judge. Fear him. Leave off from your sins, and forget your iniquities, to meddle no more with them forever. So shall the Most High lead you forth and deliver you from all trouble." And we came out and told you, Jakes, that Blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans to stop sinning, etc. Right? And Lord will, protect you and deliver you out of this time. Right? Turn to Yahweh Hashem Shai. We told you that. You know. So you do that, and the Lord is going to be with you. Verse 68. For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you. Revelation 12:12. The devil coming down with great wrath, and they shall take away certain of you. They're going to take, certain of the elect brothers away as well. To what? Concentration camps, and feed you, being idle with things offered unto idols. Going into, they're going to be trying to chip people they take to those camps. The elect ain't going to get chipped though. Verse 69, and they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden underfoot. So those people that, consent, to them giving the chip, going along with it, he's still going to kill them. Verse 70, for there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. There's going to be uprising, basically Esau is going to come down against the elect. But also, this doesn't only apply to just the elect, just Jakes in general, Israelites in general, because Israel is the only ones that can fear the Lord. They have a zeal of the Lord, zeal of the Most High, but not putting knowledge. So Esau's with his troops are going to be running up in your apartment complexes, your homes, snatching you out, etc. Verse 71, they shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. See? For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. They're going to taking people, out of their houses. Verse 73, then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. You see? The Lord is going to intervene. And also, when they come down, which is a great wrath, when Esau comes down, with his troops and everything against the elect, what's also said, it's the book of Isaiah, chapter 59, verse 19. It says, so shall they fear the name of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy, Esau, shall come in like a flood with his troops, he's going to come down against the elect like that, man. In the time of Jacob's trouble, he's going to come down against them like that with his troops. Like you see in that picture with that pull up here with them troops and that black woman at the door with her mouth hanging open. They're going to come down like that against the elect, man. They surrounded them, might have trucks all around their house or whatever, right? When that happens, for some brothers, it says the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against them. And that standard is what? In the Hebrew, the Hebrew word is nawas, right? It says to flee, escape. So the Lord's going to make a way for them to escape out of that. Now, how do you think that's going to happen, right? How do you think a regular man without the Lord is going to be able to escape out of something like that? He can't. So, you're going to need spiritual powers to do that. It could be, the Lord's going to give certain brothers spiritual powers to escape out of that situation of the enemy coming in like a flood. He might make you fly away, or make you disappear. He might give you spiritual powers to fight back. Okay? So when they come down, they're going to be shocked for some brothers. This is the end we talking about, man. Esau, man, he's gonna get it, man. He's gonna get it. He's gonna be shocked when he sees that. All right, now let's go into something else. All right, more of what Jacob's trouble consists of. 2 Ezra 5:1. Nevertheless, is coming tokens. Behold, the days shall come that they which dwell upon earth shall be taken in a great number. Meaning, a lot of people are going to die. It says, and the way of truth shall be hidden, the famine of the word, and the land shall be barren of faith. All right. Now let me jump down. There's again different verses of what Jacob's trouble consists of. 2 Ezra 5:9. And salt water shall be found in the sweet, and all friends shall destroy one another. Yeah. People will be fighting against each other. It's like as it says, 2 Ezra 6:24. It says, at that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies. See? These people are going to be fighting each other out here. You're going to see people fighting in the street. Okay? Fighting everywhere, to the point of death even. All right? But it says, then shall wit hide itself. It says, and understanding withdraw itself into a secret chamber. You know, they uh similar to the word. Okay, look, verse 10: it shall be sought of many, and yet not be found. People are gonna be looking for answers and ain't gonna get any. Then shall unrighteousness and incontinency be multiplied upon earth. One land also shall ask another, and say, is righteousness that maketh a man righteous gone through thee? And shall say, no. Right, verse 12. At the same time shall men hope, but nothing obtain. They shall labor, but their way shall not prosper. So people are going to be trying to make plans, to get through stuff. And this time, they're going to be praying, stuff happens, but it's not going to prosper because it's the time of judgment. Okay? Now, this is 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse, let's see here. I'm going to read a little bit here because the scriptures talk about it in this chapter. They touch on it in this chapter a little bit. Actually, I want to read out of this chapter. It's all right. But we touched on some of the things that going to be happening in Jacob's trouble. All right. Hold on, give me 1 second. Yeah. Okay, so we went, through some of the stuff that's going to be happening. However, but also, can't forget that there's a promise. It's like there's protection promise for the elect throughout these times. At the end of 2nd Ezra 16, I know this is a lengthy, lesson. It's Salakia, all right, but it's to edify. In the book of 2nd Ezra, the 16th chapter, towards the end, it says here. Verse 74, hear, O ye my beloved, saith the Lord, this should comfort you. Behold, the days of trouble are at hand, the time of Jacob's trouble, but I will deliver you from the same. This should comfort you. Lord, don't lie. The Lord said he was going to bring Jacob's trouble on the world. Right. So in Jacob's trouble, also deliverance is coming. See, it says, but I will deliver you from the same. Okay. Be ye not afraid neither doubt, for Yahweh is your guide, and the guide of them who keep my commandments and precepts, saith the Lord Yahweh. Let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves. See? But the point is, the Lord said he's going to deliver us out of this time, right? And through this time, the Lord's going to deliver his elect. This is 2nd Ezra 9, 7, and 8. And everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith, whereby ye have believed, shall be preserved from the said perils, and perils means dangers. From the said dangers, the dangers that's been prophesied to come. Those are the said perils, the different dangers of Jacob's trouble. Right? The elect are going to be preserved. They're going to be preserved means protected, kept in the state, that it was gotten. I mean, and basically, they're going to be protected. Just they're going to be protected throughout this thing. They're going to be preserved from the said perils. And shall see my salvation and my lesson. They're going to get delivered. And within my borders, it says, for I have sanctified them for me from the beginning, the elect, which means chosen. Okay? They're called, if you were chosen, the elect are going to be good in this time. The elect of Israel, they're going to be, protection is promised. And there's many scriptures that go into it, but this is the time of Jacob's trouble, man. And once again, before Yahweh Shai comes back, before the nuclear missiles, before ultimately we get out of this place, Jacob's trouble is going to have to happen, man. All right? And I'm going to end it with this. It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 1, starting at verse 20. Wisdom cries without, she uttereth her voice in the streets. Was going out there and preaching on the streets. She cries in the chief place of concourse, the opening of the gates, the city areas they see us in. In the city she uttereth her words, saying, How long? Ye simple ones, will you love simplicity, and the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. How long talking to Jake? How long are you just gonna be, BSing, and worrying about dumb shit? Verse 23, turn you with my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you. And that's what the prophets of the Lord have been doing all this time, making the Lord's words known to his people, right? By preaching, verse 24, because I have called and you refused, I have stretched out my hand and regarded, but ye have said no on my counsel with none of my reproof. How did Jake do this? By not listening, by not taking heed to the prophets out there. They want to scoff, they want to mock. Let me get this real quick. Second Chronicles 36, verse 16. Seeing the brothers out there on the streets teaching, from our apostles and elders of their millstone and the like-minded brothers under them, seeing them out there on the streets teaching, right, prophesying, put these lessons up, is a chance for you to repent. That's the Lord stretching his hand out to you. So ultimately, you press and decline when the Lord calls. Second Chronicles 36 and 15. The same thing happened back then when time of the Babylonians coming down against Jake. It says, in Yahweh, power of their fathers sent to them by his messengers, rising up betimes and sending, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they mocked the messengers of Yahweh and despised his words and misused his prophets, until the wrath of Yahweh arose against his people, till there was no remedy. See? They would mock. Jake was doing the same thing, mocking the men of the Lord back then. And the Lord brought that hell on them, as it says, verse 17. Therefore he brought upon them the king of the southeast, who slew their young men with the sword in the house of their sanctuary, and had no compassion upon young man or maiden, old man, or him that stooped for age. He gave them all into his hand. And that same thing is going to go happen now. The Lord ain't going to care if you're old, young, what, So, we in that time where, hey, Jacob's trouble ain't gonna be no joke. It's called trouble for a reason. So, Jake don't want to listen. Well, that's your ass. Verse 26 says, I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear comes. So we're going to be laughing at Jake. Verse 27, when your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you. Yeah, when Jacob's trouble happens, then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. Jake is that when all hell breaks loose, then Jake is gonna want to get and turn to the Lord. It's gonna be too late. He's not gonna answer. And I'm gonna just jump down to this verse 33. But whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely and shall be quiet from fear of evil. So this, was a little, different. I guess you could say somewhat different from other lessons. But before all hell breaks, before the missiles come, this has to happen, because the missiles is like the end all be all, And it's just after the missiles, the kingdom. You see, ain't gonna be more Jacob's trouble after the missile. It's just the kingdom. But the Lord is going to be with his elect, throughout this time. The elect had nothing to fear. He's going to, feed the elect. Protection is promised. You have different, what's the name? Chapters like Psalm 33, Psalm 34. Because you got people prepping for these times. You got doomsday preppers, right? But who's to say that they're going to be around to keep themselves eating all that food and everything that they've stocked up? And what happens if they were to run out of it? What if they ain't packed so much? Then what? And that food going to be given to the elect. The Lord's going to be protecting his men. All of that. From the animals as well. The rest of Job 5 talks about that. And the chip. The chip is going to be mandatory, but the elect is going to be protected from all of this stuff. So brothers, you elect brothers and sisters out there, they have nothing to worry about, man. You're going to be all right. And these women, they're going to see that the man of the Lord is real protection. That's the real high value man. All right. But we living in the time of Jacob's trouble, the beginning of it, you know. So hey, so it's 144 right now, about to be 145, but basically ending this lesson, it was 144. So hey man. Hey, so Lord willing, this lesson was edifying to the elect. All praises to Yahweh, Hashem Yahweh Shai, Hashem Hakadosh. That belongs to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone every well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the elect. Shalom to the elect.